What's going on, everybody? I'm Clayton. Welcome back to Ages of Film, and today we are going to be reviewing Alien versus Predator, homie. So while you're here, smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, as we making our journey to 1K subscribers. Get some. Yeah, so we're going through the Predator movies right now. I've already reviewed the original Predator. That was way back in the day. I done Predator 2 and moving on to next in line, which is Alien vs Predator. You're up to bat. So yeah, let's get right into it. Gonna start with the positives as always, moving to the negatives. Just as a reminder, guys, this is just my opinion on this movie. No reason to be upset or offended by anything I have to say. Let's just have a good time, all right? So, Alien vs. Predator. Starting with the positives. Released in 2004, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. I've reviewed one of his films on my channel, that being Mortal Kombat from 1995, which I was not a fan of, to say the least. If you have seen that review, pretty hard on it. So how does he fare here, dealing with xenomorphs and the predator creature? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me talk to you about it. There are things I like about this movie. There are. I did see this movie in theaters. This was actually the first movie of either franchise that I saw. So I saw this in theaters in 2004 with one of my best friends at the time. And I had not seen any of the Alien or Predator movies. Kind of talked about it a little bit on my channel. I didn't really become a big horror fan until I was in college. So growing up, I kind of dabbled in horror here and there with a few picks, but my hardcore horror fandom didn't start till I got in college. So for me, when this one came out in theaters, I was still, fairly young, and watched it with one of my best friends in theaters, and we both liked it at the time, but we also weren't big, like, huge movie buffs either at the time. We were still just little dorky punk kids. But yeah, there are things I do like about this movie. So one of the positives for me is the setting. I do actually really like the setting here, taking place in Antarctica, in the Arctic, in the cold, in a secluded place where there aren't people that can come help you. There aren't people that can come rescue you if you need it. You're kind of alone here. I mean, you're with your team of other people, but if they get picked off, you're done. You're done skis. So I like that, because again, you're changing up the scenery. So in the first Predator movie, we're out in the jungle. We move into Predator 2, where we're in an urban environment now. And then we move into Alien vs. Predator. Now we're in the cold. Now we're in, we go from an urban place, very populated, people everywhere, to a secluded place out in no man's land, where there is no people there to help you out. So again, I like the change of scenery, the setting, the location. I think it adds a layer of horror and suspense there, because of the uncertainty, because of the fear of the unknown. You don't know what lives here. You don't know really what exists in this place. It's unknown, and we always have a fear of the unknown type of thing. So I liked the setting. The pyramid, you almost felt like an adventure movie in a way, like a horror sci-fi adventure film in a way. So that was something that I do still like with this film when I watch it. Another positive for me was the story. I did like that they gave us a coherent story in this film. It was a story that you could actually follow along, a story that did actually make sense. It didn't feel like they were just throwing something together to make some money. Like it actually did feel thought out. It's a story that you can follow along, and you're not left sitting back wondering how did any of this stuff happen. Like it's a coherent script. You can make sense out of it. You may not necessarily like the story that they went where they went with it, but you can't fault it for being incoherent like you can with a lot of other bad horror films that make absolutely no sense in the plot or in the story. This at least has a coherent story to it that makes sense. This group of researchers find this ancient ruin that they come across, and they could literally make history by discovering what's in it and what's going on. And that location is where they stumble across the predator and the xenomorph. Perfectly coherent. So yeah, I did like that they at least put in a conservative effort to write and create and give a coherent story that I could make sense out of. Give them props for that. And the fact that they did expand the universe for both worlds. They expanded the whole you know lore of these alien and predator species. They didn't just kind of wash, rinse, and repeat what had already been given and referenced in the prior films. They did kind of expand things out a little bit. So I give them props in the story writing department. That was a positive for me. Another positive was the tension. I do think that Anderson did a pretty respectable job with the tension building, the horror aspect of it. That was one of my negatives with Predator 2 was I didn't feel like it dabbled much in the horror. Like it felt more just like an action film rather than a horror film. Here I felt like they actually went back to building suspense. They actually, built some tension. There's actually some tension building scenes there, where even watching it back, even though I've seen this movie multiple times, watching it back, I still got a sense of that kind of nervous feeling, tension type of feeling that you want in a horror film. And so I do think they did a respectable job at that, building that tension and that suspense in a number of scenes. So that was something that I appreciated and liked as well. I thought that the way that Anderson handled that, not using score in those scenes, just kind of letting that tension build. Something's there, something's around the corner, but you can't see it, you can't hear it, you're just waiting for it to come out. And you have to let that tension build. And I think that Anderson did a respectable job at that. So that was another positive for me. I also really liked the cinematography and the production design in this film. I thought that the cinematography looked really good. So some of the shots here were just really well done and really well pulled off. The use of color palettes and lighting I thought was really good. The exposure on the lens was good. I liked the framing and the way that Anderson used the camera. Some of the panning shots, some of the high angle shots were really good. He was definitely doing some some pretty cool stuff with the camera. And I did really like the cinematography. I thought it gave the film a very unique style to the look that fit both Predator and Alien franchises. So kudos to that. And the production design looked really good, especially in the pyramid. some of it was obviously CGI done, but a lot of it was also actual production built designs for the film. And I did think it looked, it looked pretty good. So that's another positive that I had. The design of the Predator, the design of the Xenomorphs looked really good. And thought, again, that they stayed true to what the fans like, what the fans wanted. They didn't try to change what was working there. They left it alone, and they gave us really good alien xenomorph and predator designs that still looked good and still hold up pretty well in my opinion. I liked some of the fight scenes. Once we got to the actual fight scenes in the third act with the xenomorphs and the predators, I liked it. There were some good back and forths there. First, the xenomorph comes rolling in, puts his paws on homeboy predator, RIPs his ass, and then Predator 2 comes along. Big boss Predator walks up on Xenomorph, snaps some necks and cashes some checks, man. And yeah, it's there's some good back and forth there, and I liked some of the action that we got. I enjoyed. So the fight scenes were good once we got to them. Would have liked a little bit more action at some points. I'll get to that in a minute, but overall, the fights that we got between the two species was acceptable for me, and I liked it. Lance Henriksen, I like him. He's an actor that, again, anytime I see him on screen, he kind of puts a smile on my face, puts me in a good mood. I like seeing him. He kind of felt like the only actor that was really trying in this film. Like, he's got a lot of street cred build up to his name, and I did like him, even though I don't think he really had much to do in this film. Understandable, he was getting a bit up there at this point in age, and so he didn't have a whole lot to do in the film. But what we got of him, I liked. I like him as an actor. I like his on-screen presence, and he's always enjoyable for me to see on screen. I thought some of the kills were good. This was another criticism I had with Predator 2, is that they didn't really show us many good kills. This one I thought gave us some. There were some pretty good kills. There were some off-screen kills as well that were unfortunate. I'm never a fan of that, but at least we do get some pretty, some pretty good RIPs in this one, I think. And yeah, more satisfying than what we got in Predator 2. So while they're not the best kills in the franchise, while they still left some things to be desired in the kill department, I do have to give it props for at least heading in the right direction in with the kills from where they were in Predator 2. So that was a positive for me. So those are all things that I do like about this movie when I come to it, and things that still work and hold up for me to this day. So moving into the negatives, I got a lot of bones to pick with this film. Things that don't hold up well for me. My biggest issue with this movie are the characters. There's really kind of lack of any strong characters in this film, and that's something that you want in both of these franchises. Strong group of characters, and we didn't really get that. I don't really care about any of the characters in this movie. Part of that is on the writing and how none of these characters really had any development. None of them really offered anything spectacular. And then part of it is also in the acting. I felt like the acting was also pretty rough by everyone not named Lance Henriksen. Like the main girl that we're following, she just felt very flat all the way through. Like there was no, up or down with her. She was just kind of one note one beat all the way through, and I just felt like she didn't really carry much conviction or much energy, and maybe that was an intentional choice of trying to play that character that way, but from an audience standpoint, she didn't really do anything that made me invest with her, or really care about her all that much. And then the supporting characters, the one, British guy was a little too over the top and eccentric for me. The other, the guy that I forget where he was from, Italian. Yeah, the Italian guy again didn't really offer anything. Didn't really have a personality that stood out. Didn't really have anything on paper all that significant. So, just the characters here just didn't really cut it for me. I didn't really care or invest with any of them. And part of that, again, is on the writing, and part is in the acting. But that's my biggest issue with Alien versus Predator, is just the lack of characters that I really care about. But on top of that, I also thought the dialogue was pretty bad in some places. So not necessarily in the exposition scenes, but more so in the back and forth banter type of scenes, like the British guy and the Italian guy, and some of their back and forth. Just like, ugh, that is not how people talk. That is not what anyone would say in this scene. And in a few other places as well, where it felt very out of place with the dialogue. So yeah, that's negative for me. The pacing in the second act really dragged. I really felt the run time in the second act this time around. And that may have not been something I've noticed on past viewings. Maybe it was just kind of a mood thing this time, but I felt like the second act really dragged. Like the first act moved along pretty well. There's stuff happening. There's story points that are being introduced and developing along the way. But once they get down into the pyramid, all the way up until the xenomorphs and the predators actually start fighting in the third act, up until then, from the time they get into the pyramid, it drags, man. Like there's not really anything that's happening. There's not really anything going on. You could go take a phone call for 30 minutes and come back and not really miss anything. This just, they find out a couple of historical stuff with the pyramid, but that's about it. Like there's no story developing, not really any development with the characters. It's just dragging on. You're just like, okay, let's get to the action here. Let's get to what we all came to see, and that's the xenomorphs and predators putting paws on each other, scrapping it out in the backyard. So yeah, second act really dragged for me. I thought that the also that opening, that opening scene before the credits, cut that. Just take that out. It wasn't needed. Literally the only thing that happens is we see a predator RIP a guy, and then we're told that the last person was killed off later on in the movie. So it's like, well, then we didn't really need to see that. Either show us or tell us, but we don't need both. And we can kind of figure out by the fact that when you arrive at that facility that there's no one living there, we can kind of deduce that no one is living there. Everyone has been extinct. So that one scene that you show us in the beginning did not do anything for anybody or anything. Like, just cut that out of the film. It's not needed. Also, some of the visual effects, the CGI stuff, doesn't really hold up very well. That is definitely not Paul W.S. Anderson's strength. He should be tagging someone else in for visual effects in his movies, because that he does not know how to manage or direct visual effects in film. That was also one of my gripes with the Mortal Kombat movie that I reviewed, and same thing here. Some of the CGI stuff just doesn't really hold up all that well today when you're watching it. I don't think I caught it in 2004 because I was a young punky kid. You're just like, okay, yeah, cool movie. You get Predator and Xenomorphs, these two creatures, you know, slapping, and I thought it was fun. But yeah, watching it back, and I've seen this movie multiple times, but yeah, just by the day, the CGI, the visual effects get worse and worse, in my opinion, which is weird because like when you're in the pyramid and you're in scenes with actual set designs, or you have scenes with someone actually in the xenomorph costume or the predator costume, it looks good. And then you cut to a scene where it's clearly CGI and it doesn't, it's not a smooth transition. So yeah, some of the visual effects and CGI stuff does not hold up 20 years later. So, and another big issue I have is the Predator. And this is something that they did in Predator 2, not to this degree, but having the Predator kind of take care of the main girl protagonist in this one, not a fan of that. Like, to me, anytime you start trying to create an emotional type of attachment to one side, you start humanizing them because you start relating human and projecting human emotions onto these alien creatures. And I'm not a fan of that. Like, the xenomorphs and the predators are alien creatures. They are horror characters. They're cold-blooded characters. Like the predator in the original was, he would be having none of that. He was trying to kill everybody. He was trying to kill Arnie. He was trying to kill Apollo Creed. He was trying to kill, Norman Rockwell. He was trying to kill everybody. That dude didn't care who you were, who your father was, and that's how it should be. These are ruthless killers. The predators literally hunt things for a living. That's all they do is hunt and kill things. I don't need to see predator creatures tag teaming with humans. Like, can you imagine Jason rolling up to Camp Crystal Lake to some camper dude out there chilling on the water and like, yo, homie, we need to tag team these fools, bro. We need to, I need you to, we got to go road warriors on these guys, on these dogs, bro. And yeah, like, what? No one would like that. No one would want to see Jason tag teaming with some camper to go take out another group of campers. Why are we doing that here? Why do we got to have humans, tag teaming with the predators to take out the xenomorphs? I don't want to see that. I want to see predators and xenomorphs as horror creatures, both trying to kill the humans. Like there's a way you can do it without getting the humans emotionally attached to one side or the other and picking sides. Just let the two sides battle it out. And it's like that line in Godzilla vs. Kong with Ken Watanabe or whatever it is he's calling himself these days, when he says, let them fight, because the humans are trying to figure out what to do about Kong and Godzilla. And, Ken's over here like, yo, just let them fight, bro. Like, let them sauce each other up. And, that's what I feel like should have been done with Alien and Predator. Let these two boys scrap, homie. Like, yeah, I don't need Jason tag teaming with anybody. Like, hey, these campers over here, they're rolling up on my grill without an invite from Mama Voorhees, and now we need to tag up to take them out. I don't want to see that in a Friday movie, and I don't want to see humans and predators tag teaming in a Predator and Alien movie. That's just annoying to me. I don't like that stuff. I don't want to see that stuff. So for me, that's a negative. It may not be a negative for you. and that's fine. To each their own, right? But for me, that's negative. I don't want to see that stuff. And then the ending. The ending was just weird because they just leave, like the predators just straight up leave. They just throw up the deuces like, yo, peace out, homie. And they just leave the girl there on the ice, on the ice place. Like, okay, are we just to assume that she's just gonna die off then? Like, no one's gonna come, because no one can come rescue her. Everyone else is dead. She's literally just trapped there on the ice place. She's got no communication, no one to communicate to. So it's just like, really? That's how we're just gonna end. We're just gonna, predators walk off into the sunset, leave homegirl to defend for herself. Okay, there's just no payoff really to that character. And it's just it felt weird. And then the xenomorph busting out of the predator at the end didn't make sense because the predator at no point got attached by a face hugger. So it's like, at what point would a face hugger have planted, a baby xenomorph in the predator? Like, we never saw that. So the ending, everything just surrounding that ending was a bit odd and a bit weird to me, and I just not really a fan of it. So, yeah, that's basically it. That's all we're gonna talk about today. Overall, my overall rating here for AVP, I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 5 as well. It's still a fun watch. It's entertaining. It's got some nostalgia to it for me. I do really like the cinematography and the setting. Some of the kills are pretty good. And I just like watching these two species, cook. I just like watching them sauce each other up, man, and duke it out. So a fun movie. I could have done with some better pacing and plot building in the second act, but overall, it still passes. We'll still let it graduate and move on. So 3 out of 5 for me for Alien vs Predator. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Do you agree with my rating? Do you disagree? Let me know how ridiculous my take is on this movie. Thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time, kick it and rock on.